規則正しいせ。 この戦場にも勝利をもたらそう。
動員出撃。
Hey, what's up, man? You want to see something? Guess what happened over at my job today? At my job today, I got enough black cars to do a 10 pull, and look what happened. A triple S. I did a lucky 10 pull. I was gonna spend to get her to triple S, because she's gonna be meta viable for a very long time. But I did a 10 pull and I got an extra copy. So, these are my two strongest right here. She's triple S as well, but she's just a emotional support. she doesn't do anything. She's just kind of there. But yeah, that's something that happened today. Very glad, because I don't really have a lot of funds right now. Very tempted to max her out just because I like playing as her. It's very tempting. Probably not the wisest idea, but I'm tempted. Liv will be replaced by Vera, yeah. Liv will be replaced by Vera on the current CN patch. Liv gets replaced, so you actually play as all three characters instead of just two, which is a good thing.
この戦場にも勝利をもたらそう。おごりない聖火だ。もう死は恐れない。命がけで行くぞ。
私に任せてください。
道を切り開く。
それ集え暁の光。翼よ羽ばたけ。紅蓮のように咲き乱れろ。彼方まで越え行け。
もう死は恐れない。命がけで行くぞ。生き抜いてやる。道を切り開く。もう死は恐れない。命がけで行くぞ。
当たれ集え暁の光。翼よ羽ばたけ。当たれ翼よ羽ばたけ。カラスバのように輝け。
この戦場にも勝利を
I
も
like
た
how
らそう。
people like when they power creep in this game because the
準備はすでに整った。もう
monetization is
死は恐れない
fair. Over on Zenless Zone Zero side, they announced like you know, the 2.0, the new season.
動員出撃。
Like almost every character that talks in that trailer is going to be playable. People are wondering how they're going to afford them all. Like, yeah, exactly. Got that triple, that 50-50 garbage. I do like that game, but not as much as
こ
this.
の戦場にも勝利を
If
も
it
たら
didn't
そう
have that monetization, I would play it more. And I would spend
準
more,
備はす
but
でに整った。もう
spend very little on that game.
命
It's
が
fun
け
to
で
play
行くぞ。
casually, but just those games are just way too expensive.
動員出撃。
Although it was promising to hear that they're going
道
to
を切り開く。
buff old characters, because there's already been a pretty considerable amount of power creep.
それ
That's good to hear at least,
集
but
え暁の
monetization's
光。
still trash. So I don't know how much that really changed anything for me.
行け翼よ羽ばたけ。
この戦場にも勝利をもたらそう。
Yeah, that's how those games are designed, but it doesn't. It's not an
準備は
excuse.
すでに整った
Very predatory to have
もう死は恐れない
50-50 pity.
命がけ
The
で行く
worst
ぞ
thing to happen to these kinds of games,
私に任せてくださ
by
い
far. It's all Genshin's fault.
総員出撃
Ryu Hayabusa was right when he said, Genshin, go to hell. He was right.
それ
He was predicting the future.
暁の光
Him saying that has been going around a lot on social
翼
media.
よ羽ばたけ
Yeah. Ryu was a prophet.
当たれ
He sacrificed himself for us so much, but the best thing he did for us was predict
この戦
the
場に
worst thing
勝利を
about
もたら
gacha
そう
games.
おごりない成果だもう死は恐れない命がけで行くぞおごりない成果だ生き抜いてやる道を切り開く
当たれ
I can't believe people accept it.
暁の光
It's so dumb.
カラスバのように立つ翼よ羽ばたけ行け
I think what makes it worse in those games compared to
この
this is
戦
like,
場に
even if
勝
this
利を
game
もたらそう
had 50-50, the thing that makes it different is that there's packs that you can
So-
buy.
もう死は
I think
恐れ
what's
ない
the worst about a lot of the games that have 50-50 pity is they
この
don't have
戦場に
packs.
勝利をもたら
So
そう
you can't spend like $50 and get like a good
準備
deal
はすでに整
on
っている
pulls. On Zenless they have like one pack for 10
この戦場にも
pulls.
勝利
And
を
it's
も
like
たらそう
$15. I'm like, yeah, that's a good deal, but
準備はすでに
after that the value just drops off a
Mondai da.
cliff. There's like nothing else that you can buy
この戦場にも勝利をもたら
besides
そう
like the $100 pack, which is a crap
準備
crap
はす
deal
でに整っているもう
because
死
it's
は
only like
恐れない
40 pulls. $100 should not take you halfway through a
命がけで
50-50.
行くぞ生き抜いて
I'm sorry.
任せてください
I'm not saying that as somebody who's poor, just in
道
general.
を切り開く
Value is terrible.
それ
I would legit spend more money
暁の
if it
光
wasn't like that.
カラスバのよう
Spent a
に
ton on this game, this
生命の
patch.
ように貫け翼よ羽ばたけ
Because they had the packs. I spent more money because there's packs. I got paid from my kitty sitting
こ
job
の
and
戦場にも勝利をもたらそう
I put like $50 into this game. That's how I got both characters,
もう
double
死は恐
S3.
れない
Can I do that on Zenless? No.
命がけで行くぞ
$50 gets you nowhere in that game.
生き抜いてやる道を切り開く
それ集え暁の光翼よ羽ばたけ行け翼よ羽ばたけ
$100 should be
こ
pity
の
on
戦場に
any
も勝
game.
利をもたらそう
That's a lot of money. That's basically like a
もう死は
AAA
恐
game
れない
deluxe edition and a little bit more money.
命がけで行くぞ
$100 for like
問題ない
50 pulls is robbery.
この戦場にも
Spend
勝利をもたら
$100 in
そ
this game, you're basically guaranteed a character.
うもう死は恐れない
The thing about this game is the rates are very low.
私
They're
に
lower
任せ
than
てくだ
most
さい
games, even really predatory ones. But what makes it different is it's guaranteed. It's guaranteed.
それ
So
集え
you don't feel like
暁の
you're
光
throwing money into a fire. Which is exactly what I don't
翼よ
like,
羽ばたけ
because I don't have a lot of money.
行け紅蓮のように咲き乱れろ私
集中攻撃
彼方まで越え行け
おごりないもう死は恐れない命がけで行くぞ生き抜いてやる
私に任せ
I
て
get it though. It's so hard to like make people pay for a game these days. They've conditioned us to wait for sales
暁の光
Conditioned us to wait for sales and stuff.
翼よ羽ばたけそれ
Put a
紅のように咲き乱れろ
subscription fee on a game like this, it'll die like
彼方まで
instantly.
超えゆけ
You know, it's the only game that has a privilege of subscription and no microtransactions or pay to win is like Final Fantasy and Warcraft. That's it.
道を切り開く
The age of paying for a monthly subscription is pretty much gone.
もう
I get that that's part of the problem, but I don't know.
命がけでいくぞ
I quit Wuthering Waves because they had
道を切り
50-50.
開く
I was really hoping that they would not have
総員
that.
出撃
I was like banking on it.
集え
Like, no, they have that crap there too. It's actually worse than Zenless.
カラスバのように輝け翼よ羽ばたけそれ
It's worse than Zenless because the off-rate
紅のように
characters
咲
are
き乱
really bad in that game.
れ彼方まで超えゆけ
If you're gonna have 50-50, the off-rate characters shouldn't feel like a punishment for getting them. That's my take on it.
生き抜いてやる
That's why Aether Gazer was nice. They had a lot more characters in the general banner.
生き抜いてやる
It wasn't just
道を
like
切り開く
a bunch of crap characters from the first month of the game that get power crept like instantly.
それ
It's like actual good
集え
characters.
暁の光
Like if you're gonna have 50-50, that's the way it should be.
翼よ羽ばたけ
You shouldn't feel punished for
紅のように咲き乱れろ
shouldn't feel punished for getting an off-rate character, but that's exactly the problem with
進みましょう
Wuthering Waves right
降り
now.
かかる苦難が全てなくなるま
They
で
weren't even great when the game launched, and now there's been so much power creep. Like Lin Yang, the cat guy that fights with martial arts. He's been bad since the game launched, and now he's even worse. There's other limited characters that have been added that are better than him. That's something they desperately need to fix in that game. That's why I stopped playing it. Zenless Zero might have predatory 50-50. The thing that sets it apart is that the off-rate characters are more than usable. And then just like a couple days ago, they said that they're going to make them... they're going to buff them in some way. I'm like, that's very promising. If the game wasn't so damn greedy, I would want to play it more. But that is exactly what Wuthering Waves needs to do. Everyone says that game is so much better than Genshin. I've never played Genshin myself, but I don't know. Getting an off-rate character should still be like some kind of boon to your account. It shouldn't be like the game basically making fun of you. But that's kind of how it is, really. Game's basically like Nelson from The Simpsons just laughing at you. It's like, what are you laughing at me for? It took like $50 to get that.
この戦場にも勝利をもら
Make
う
it
ぞ
worth spending money, or I won't spend any money, or I'll quit. Which is what I did. Quit that
も
game.
う死は恐れない
I was already kind of exhausted by the open
命
world,
がけでい
but
くぞ
then the monetization,
準備はすでに
major
整っている
turnoffs.
生き抜いてやる
総員
Very disappointed that they monetized it like that.
命がけでいくぞ生き抜いてやる
I guess it's because the game costs more to make than this game. It's a very
道を切り開く
low budget game in comparison, but I don't know. My take is if they
動くなよ
didn't have 50-50 pity,
集中攻撃
they would have had so much more of a head start. Would have been seen as a legit competitor.
誰集え
Wuthering Waves
暁の
was
光
really rough at launch.
翼よ羽ばた
Basically
け
had a bunch of PGR apologists telling them that the game would get better,
進みましょう
which, I mean,
降り
was
かかる
true,
苦難が
but
全てなくなるまで
it's people that play this game. Brand loyalty really helped them a lot. I don't know, they kind of lost my brand loyalty when they copied Genshin's monetization. I live on a very low income, so 50-50 for me
この
is
戦闘
killer.
に勝利をもた
And
ら
I
そう
lost the 50-50 so many times. I'm like, I gotta stop playing this,
準備は
man.
すでに問題ない
I gotta stop playing this.
もう死は恐れない命がけで行くぞ
I do not have the money to play 50-50 pity.
脇が甘すぎるって。
命がけで行くぞ生き抜いてやる
Also, like my videos of this game don't do very well at all, so I don't have like what gacha game content creators have. You know they do those pull videos, and they get like 50,000 views on them. I mean that basically pays for a big chunk of what they spend.
進みましょう。
But I'm not a gacha content
す
creator.
べてなくなるまで。
I play them on the side, but it's not what I'm known for. So I don't have that going for me either. I think gacha content creators can spend like $500 on a character because they know it's a investment to grow their brand, but that's like the only thing that they play. They don't play anything else.
死は恐れない
I play a large variety of games. I'm mostly known for single-player
甘す
games.
ぎるって。
There aren't like many people that even stream this game. Probably one of the people that streams it the most, especially on here.
あんまり調子こくない。
On Twitch, this is kind of a dead category. This game,
そういう出撃。
Wuthering Waves is far more popular in terms of like concurrent viewership.
けの花。行け。集え。暁の光。
I mean, which is good for Kuro. I'm glad.
翼よ羽ばたけ。
The game's just not for me. At least not right now. Maybe if they make some changes.
進みましょう。
Well, they don't have to render a whole
すべてなくなるまで。
open world in this game. They only have to render a couple characters. This game's like an honorary PS2 game. It's like an honorary PS2 game. So, you know, PS2 games had pretty good combat if you found the right ones anyway. Never spending cash on Genshin is a net positive. There are a lot of people who hate playing that game, but they've invested so much that they have sunken cost fallacy, which is also something
こ
that
の戦
happens
闘
with
にも
like
勝利をもたらそう
World of Warcraft and stuff as well. League of Legends is another one.
もう
People like
死は
actually hate
恐れない
playing that game, but it's all they can get their friends to play, or they spent so much on skins.
命がけ
Feel
で
like
行
they
くぞ
can't just
生き
quit
抜いてやる
cold turkey. I've quit games like this cold turkey before.
命がけで行く
I
ぞ
don't really get that addicted.
生き抜いてやる
I spent a decent amount on Wuthering Waves, not an insane amount of money, but I bought a couple packs and stuff.
誰。
I just wasn't feeling it anymore.
暁の光。翼よ羽ばたけ。それ。進みましょう。降りかか
I
る
would
苦
look
難が
past
全
that
てな
game's
くなるま
faults
で。
if it didn't have Mihoyo monetization. But it does, so very easy to drop. Well, Honkai Impact had decent combat, but it
この
devolved
戦闘
into
にも勝利をもたらそう
spamming supers nonstop. Also, the power creep in that game is really
も
bad.
う死は恐れない
Far worse than this game. The thing about this game, though, is
生き抜いてやる
people actually want the power creep. People don't really complain about power creep in this game. They complain about the rotation playstyle, and my thought on that as somebody who plays this game every day and spends a decent amount on it is they have to keep that stuff in the game because it makes money.
紅のように咲き乱れろ
They provide more than enough modes where you're not, you know, timed,
進みま
that it
しょう
doesn't really matter.
降りかかる苦難が全て
But
な
like,
く
if
な
they
る
didn't have that in the game would make even less money than it already does. There's got to be some kind of hook for whales. You know, people who max out every character. They get like triple S pet, and you know, they max resonance
この
everybody.
戦場にも勝利をもた
There
ら
has
そ
to
う
be some kind of hook. But they provide modes where, you know, that stuff doesn't matter.
もう死は
Last
恐れない
roguelike mode, I played good, probably 20, 30 hours with off-meta characters. Just because it was fun. I think they strike a good balance between
命が
power
けで
creep
生
and
き抜いてやる
letting you have fun with characters you actually like.
道を切り開
But
く
it is definitely a game where you need every character.
準備はすでに整っ
That's
て
one of the
も
downsides
う
for
死
sure.
は恐れない
The game is designed with you getting every character in mind.
生き抜いてやる
If you miss a character, your account's at a huge disadvantage compared to the 50-50 pity games where they don't really expect you to get
立ち
everybody.
止まるのはらしくない
You can be a little bit more selective. Like when I quit Genshin, they had not Genshin, but Wuthering. They had that little lolly girl with the suitcase. I'm like, this character is lame. This character's for the lolicons. I'm not into that stuff, man.
こ
Trash-looking
の戦
character.
場にも勝利をもたらそう
You know, my account wasn't like Brick because I didn't get her. That's one of the one good things about 50-50 pity. They don't design the game around you having everybody. This game definitely is. I think the thing that made Wuthering Waves got better than Genshin the moment that they had a skip button. I hear that's one of the biggest complaints about Genshin, is that they don't have a skip button. Me, personally, I will not look at any service game story. I always skip, because I know from my past that that shit will never finish. It's a waste of time to read it. Even if you like it, you gotta think about, like, well, am I going to play this game until it shuts down? I mean, sometimes the answer is yes. But with a game like that, like, it's not gonna shut down anytime soon. It's kind of like Final Fantasy XI. That game was so successful. It's still up. I don't think they do story quests for it anymore, but it's still up. Very rare for a service game to actually have an ending. It almost never happens. That's one of the things that people hate about that game. You can't skip the cutscenes. Like, yeah, I totally get it. I totally get it. You know, I generally will give a story a chance if it's like a premium game. You know, something you actually pay for that is not meant to go on forever. But in games like that, I just skip. I think that was the moment that the game really became better than Genshin. They added the skip button. Like, that should be mandatory. What was that game called? Tribe 9? That one that just came out? They said that they didn't want people to skip the cutscenes because, I guess they didn't want them to miss the story. I'm like, dude, you gotta That's not your decision to make. That's not your decision to make. It's the people who are playing the game and will hopefully spend money. That's their decision. They said they deliberately didn't put in a skip button. I'm like, dude, what? What kind of nonsense is that?
You saved us all.
How do you not have a skip button? That would be like the main thing that would make me never try a game like that. They don't have a skip button, I'm out. It's supposed to be like a mobile game, I think, too, and I'm like, how do you rationalize doing that? You know, people don't have infinite time. One of the things that PGR and Zenless Zone Zero do very well is that the dailies take like a minute. Like on Zenless Zone Zero and PGR, the way that the dailies work is that, you know, once a week there's ones that take longer, like the roguelike mode in Zenless, and then the boss fights, and then in PGR it's Pain Cage and Warzone. But it's like no more than like 20 minutes. When you've already done that for the day, for the week, the dailies take like a minute. Which is part of what it allows people to get more invested, because they don't need to spend that much time on it in a day. I can't imagine playing a game that probably has like multiple minutes worth of cutscenes and not letting you skip them. Like, okay, how am I supposed to play this, you know, on the bus or on the train or on like a break from work? Like, explain that to me. That's a really easy way to get me to not even try a game. If you pull a stunt like that, come on now. Respect people's time, and they have a higher chance of spending money. Which is supposed to be the whole point of games like that, right? Is getting people addicted so they spend money. But apparently not according to those guys. Because they expect every gacha game to be a Genshin level success where it's making tens of millions of dollars a month. What they also don't remember is that Genshin and Wuthering Waves, I'm sure by proxy, cost an insane amount of money to operate. So, like, they have to keep making money. That's probably why, as much as I hate on Wuthering Waves monetization, that's probably why the production values of Wuthering Waves are like 10 times PGR. PGR is mostly still images, visual novel stuff, and good music. There's very few cutscenes. Yeah, they think they're all trying to find and make the next Genshin Impact, but it's like statistically impossible. You can't just do that. It either happens or it doesn't, and the odds are really against you. That's why I find it weird that so many of the ones trying to break out and gain an audience, they still use 50-50 pity. It's like, well, if your game didn't have that, I would probably play it. Most people would probably play it. That would be a big selling point, to not have the 50-50. I know I speak for a lot of people. If you didn't have that, it would at least give me a reason to check your game out. But then, like, so many of them still have it. Like, well... What does your game offer that the big games don't? I think the monetization is exactly the same. The answer is nothing. Much as people like to rag on 50-50, the most popular games that use it, those games won't shut down for a very long time. Your investment is safe. You play like literally any other like gacha game. you always have to, basically gambling, whether it'll actually survive or not. That's pretty much why, like, PGR has basically gotten several years of security. It's basically going to be Kuro Games' Honkai Impact. The game is nowhere near as popular as it used to be, but they still update it. It still gets updates. It's regular, frequent content updates. Like, they don't have a reason to shut it down because their bigger games are offsetting the costs. I heard they did a major backpedal on Tribe 9 because it was showing signs of dying instantly. It's one of those games where, like, they had to do something, otherwise it wasn't going to last past the first month. I heard it's doing better now. This makes you wonder why they made stuff like that. Apparently that game was really greedy with free currency. I'm glad they backpedaled, but clearly they were trying to take advantage of people. Just weren't expecting people to clap back. I'm like, dude, there's so many other action gachas out there. There has to be some reason for people to even give your game a chance because, you know, rag on Genshin as much as you like. A game deserves to be ragged on, but your investment is safe. When you play something like Tribe 9, it's not. That's why it's imperative to get it right, like, the moment that you put the game up. You have a very short time to recover, otherwise the game is dead. It's happened to countless gachas. Yeah, apparently the free currency you could get for playing was, like, basically nothing. So you had to spend money.
Oh God, please let me go. Oh, please don't experiment on me.
From what I'm hearing, they recovered. Is it enough to keep the game alive? Well, that I don't know, because I don't really follow the game. But I heard that the launch was really rough, and they were exceedingly stingy. People rightfully clapped back. Well, yeah, that's the thing too. If the combat doesn't compete with other more safe games to play, like PGR, Genshin, Wuthering, Zenless, then people won't play it. If the gameplay is not fun, and the only draw is the story, then you're not really giving people a reason to play it. You could just watch the cutscenes for that online, right? I'm sure somebody's uploading every cutscene. Yeah, it's not worth playing and spending money if the gameplay is not going to be fun. Personally, I don't even read the story in PGR. I skip it all.
Oh, what's this? Let's test something.
Apparently a lot of people like the story, but I just don't care. I'm not really a story guy, mostly because I've been gaming since the 80s. It's not a priority for me. How much did that guy actually do on Tribe 9, though? Because a lot of games, they use a big name like that to try to get people to play it. They, like, barely did anything. How much did he actually do? It's like Akira Toriyama on Dragon Quest. Like, yeah, he's the reason why the art style is the way it is, but I don't really think he did much else on the games. You know, Dragon Ball GT as well, same thing. You know, he gave them, like, the character designs and maybe, like, a foundation. But other than that, he was hands-off. I'm always a little bit skeptical, and that's the way they try to get you to play something. It's been some, like, big name in the game industry. I'm like, how much did they actually do? How much did they actually do? Probably not as much as they'd like you to believe. Dragon Quest is a whole mess, though, because the musician was apparently a really bad person.
You saved us all.
And really limited what they could do for such a long time. Well, see, exactly. Does that really mean anything? Does that really mean anything? That means barely anything. Like, he's the guy paying the bills. How much does he really have to do with it? See, they're hoping you won't, notice that.
I hate.
Writing for those games has to be really bad, just because, you know, they can pull the plug at, like, any time. Can pull the plug instantly. It's happened to so many of those so-called story-based games. Happens all the time. Man, it's gotta suck. You could be, like, setting up plot threads and stuff, and then, you know, there may never actually be a payoff because the game could shut down. Tales of Crestoria was really funny because they marketed that game as story-based. I'm like, alright, well, that's a red flag right there. That's a huge red flag. That's like the biggest red flag ever. The hook should be the gameplay, first and foremost. I don't know, man. Playing a gacha game for the story is not wise. For a gacha game or any kind of service game to keep me interested, it has to have good gameplay. Otherwise, I won't touch it.
You have...
I think Tales of Crestoria was just funny because they ended on a major cliffhanger. And you could tell that, like, they weren't expecting it. But I guess there was supposed to be some kind of payoff, and there wasn't. The game just shut down. Like, yeah, joke's on you for reading all that, sorry. You're not gonna get any kind of resolution. It's just done. I had a friend who played that game, and I watched a lot of the, him do the story. Apparently it wasn't even like great turn-based combat. Yeah, that game had no future. It's one of those things that was just doomed to fail.
I hate.
Especially having the main hook be the story. I always know that that's a bad sign. That's a real bad sign. That is not what gets me to play a game like that.
You saved.
I'll just skip the story. Most of them don't. Phantasy Star Online 2 did as well. Some people didn't like the direction the story went. That whole weird part where they went to Las Vegas was... The whole, like, Las Vegas isekai thing was really weird. But to their credit, they did finish the story. They did do that. And that is incredibly rare with that kind of game. That almost never happens. I don't think people like the direction that the story went, but the fact that they ended it at all was pretty impressive. Mega Man X Dive is like the best possible outcome because they did a offline version, which is like, it doesn't get much better than that. It doesn't get much better than that. You know, they actually ended the story, so if you gave a crap about it, there was actually an ending, and then even better, they gave you an offline version. They gave you an offline version so you could still play the game, and I mean, technically your investments weren't lost. I mean, they kind of were, in a way, because you didn't get to keep your data, but they did. They did, you know, actually make an offline version, which is what all these games should do. But they want to go scorched earth. Just burn it all down. Tales of the Race did get an offline version, but it's like stuck in an emulator. It's still not ideal, but the fact that they did make an offline version is pretty impressive. Because the shutdown was pretty abrupt.
Prove to me you're worthy.
I don't know, I didn't like the Las Vegas thing. It's weird to go from like cool alien planets to going around the strip in Vegas and fighting big balding biker guys. I don't know, it's a little bit too much for me. Especially as somebody who's been to Vegas a couple times. This is too much, man. Literally had like the stereotypical biker guy, like a white guy with a bandana who's like balding in a motorcycle. Like, what is this, man? What are you doing? Why is there a Las Vegas isekai in my Phantasy Star game? Literally had you like fighting on the strip. Like, what is this? What the hell? What drugs were the writers on?
You saved it.
Who thought that was a good idea? Writers were on something special, I can tell you that. PSO2
I hate to.
is my favorite Cerberus game of all time. It's a shame how much they've ruined it. It's a shame how much they ruined it with the new Genesis. Completely murdered that game. PGR and DFO would be a close second. Completely destroyed that game. Sad.
You have.
Yeah, I really think in retrospect they should have done what they did with Final Fantasy XI. I mean, it was kind of a different situation because Final Fantasy XIV was a way worse game than New Genesis was, to the point where they had shut it down and they brought it back. But like I think they were still updating 11. And that's always what you should do if you're gonna make a sequel to like a really popular game like that. You should keep the old one running, because the problem is the new game can never have as much content as the old game at launch. It's just not possible. You know, the people funding the game and stuff are going to be like, you got to release something now. And I think it was a really big mistake to completely just basically Old Yeller PSO2. I don't know why they did that. It was the dumbest thing. The game was getting into a better spot, and they just shut it down overnight, pretty much. As soon as New Genesis came out, the game went into maintenance mode. Which is actually not what happened with Diablo 4. As much as people like to rag on Blizzard, they handled that situation way better. Diablo 3 still gets seasons. I think it was only like a couple seasons ago that they stopped doing unique themes, and they kind of did put the game into... It's like PSO2 right now, where they don't really update it anymore, but they still had the game running. Diablo 4 was a disaster at launch for a number of reasons. It's nice that 3 was still there, still getting updates. But for some reason, with PSO2, they decided it was a great idea to just kill the legacy completely. I really don't understand it. They should have kept the game going, because New Genesis was... Even for what usually happens with, you know, really old Cerberus games when they get a sequel, even by those standards, that game had nothing. It was completely barren. It was a dead open world. It had, like, no classes. All the photon arts were gone. I mean, the graphics were better, but that wasn't enough to keep people playing. I really don't understand that. Who thought that that was a good idea? You have a game that's survived longer than almost any gacha game, and it was making decent money still. And they just decided to just burn it all down. They just went into maintenance mode literally overnight. I'm like, why don't you keep that game running? Because you don't know what the reception to New Genesis is going to be. You know, like, for instance, if somehow Star Rail or Zenless Zone Zero got a bad reception, you know, they're still updating Honkai Impact, right? it's still getting updates. It's nowhere near as popular as it once was, just because it's an older game and people move on, and also the competition's way more fierce now. But like, they still update that game. They didn't kill that game off the moment that Zenless and Star Rail came out. They would have been fine. But the mistake that Sega made was thinking that New Genesis was going to be this Genshin Impact level success, so they could afford to kill the old game, and that ended up not being the case. The opposite happened. People wanted the old game back. They hated New Genesis. It was devoid of content. I think the worst thing about that situation was the fact that people who didn't play on the Japanese servers, like I did, I played that game since the beta. I was there until the end, pretty much, from the beginning to the end. Is that they went through like the whole game's lifespan in like 10 months. And that really sucks, because it basically sends the message that they never once cared about bringing PSO2 over here. The only reason they did that was for the cosmetics for New Genesis. They wanted to speedrun the New Genesis and have a worldwide release. But they didn't give a crap about actually maintaining the experience. They went through 9 years of content in like barely a year. Just a ton of really bad decisions, and that game has not recovered from any of those decisions they made. And like I said, if they still had the original game to fall back on, I think it would be a lot better. Because like right now, I mean, you look at the action RPGs that are popular right now, like Diablo and Path of Exile, like, they still update the old games. Well, Diablo 3 recently went into maintenance mode, so it's basically like PSO2, where you could still play it, but they don't update it anymore. And the events just, like, rotate and stuff. But, like, people still play those games. Like, ever since Path of Exile 2's been out, people still play Path of Exile 1, because they rotate which one is in season and which one is off season. I don't know, man. Sega ruined a good thing. I hope there will be another game as good as PSO2 again, but it doesn't seem like it. Seems like games like that are on the way out, and everything is about gacha now, which is a blessing and a curse. It's nice to have games with, like, above average combat that, you know, you can keep playing and they don't get old fast, but the monetization has taken such a big dump. The monetization is so much worse now. It's incredible how much worse it is now. It's nice how PSO2 is basically just, if you bought costumes, you could afford stuff to level up your character. And yeah, they were loot boxes, but there weren't like characters behind them. It's basically the equivalent of a good character was something you could sell. Whatever costume was popular at the time, you could make a cool million off of those.
Subdue those bound to the chain.
New Genesis is basically become VR chat with combat. I've heard some people describe it like that. It's VR chat with combat. It doesn't really have that many people playing anymore. It's like, hey, if you want VR chat with air combos, I guess it's still there. It's not It's not like the original game at all. VR chat with a combat system. What if VR chat had air combos? That's basically what the game has become. I mean, granted, PSO2 original was kind of like that as well, but not to that extent. There are people who play it and just buy the costumes and sit in town. And like, hey, you know, people can spend their time how they want. There's nothing wrong with that, but I do think there's something wrong with the game design when that's the main thing that people want to do, because there's no content. That's the real problem. It's not a problem that people want to play it that way, it's a problem that there's so little to do that that's most of what people are doing. Apparently they added like some kind of Minecraft mode to it recently. They're just doubling down on that. Like, yeah, it's the same problem as old PSO2 where there'd be really long stretches of no content. But now we're just going to completely double down on, you know, the VR chat with combos. As much as things change, they stay the same. Maybe somebody will make a PSO2 private server. That'd be pretty sweet. Add like more stuff to it.
The chains.
PSO2 was a great game. I think just the problem with... One of the problems with New Genesis that's not entirely their fault is... how do I say this? What's the best way to say this? The climate has changed, where you can't go weeks or months on end and not update and expect people to stick around. Keep in mind, this was a problem with original PS2 as well. I don't know if you guys played the JP server, but they did drip feed content on that. That's where that's like the biggest definition of drip feed content. Sometimes there'd be like weeks with just clothing updates and nothing like gameplay or combat oriented. But like back then there were barely any gacha games. There were very few. You can't update the game that infrequently and with that much insignificant stuff and expect people to stick around. And that's exactly the problem. One of the reasons why people play the popular gacha games is because, like, every 40, 45 days, there's a major update. There's a reason to keep playing. And they never really got used to doing that. New Genesis has the same pitfalls that the original PSO2 had. I think what makes it worse is that the global version of PSO2 gave people an unrealistic expectation of how frequently updates are going to come out. Because I played that game through its entire lifespan. I played it all the way to the end. It did not update that fast. One episode was usually like a year and a half, I think. And for many weeks or even months of the time between episodes, there'd be like nothing. They would do like some limited quest or new clothing or something. And that was it. Well, see, that's the problem with how they localized that game, is they made people think that, like, holy crap, this is getting all this stuff, like, every 2 months. Which is actually what people come to expect from gacha games now. That's become the standard. If a game doesn't update on that cycle, people will consider it dead, or they're going to have apprehensions about investing time and money into it. But naturally they're not able to keep up that pace. But honestly, they're at the point where they need to. But that's obviously not going to happen at this point. So I don't know how that game stays up. It's honestly a mystery to me how it stays up. I don't understand it. I can't even begin to understand how that game stays up. It's like people didn't like the drip feed content when that game had like no competition. Keep in mind, PSO2 came out in 2012, right? That predates almost every successful gacha game. There was a lot less to play back then. Maybe they'll shut it down and they'll make like an actual PSO3. I think that's like the only thing that they can do at this point. Like, just start over. I think New Genesis is beyond salvation. I don't think they can really save it at this point. It's too far gone. And if they do try again, they desperately have to increase how, need to increase their update frequency, like, by a lot. Like, way more. Like, I remember when Episode 3 came out on PSO2, and it was terrible, because they had the Ultimate Quest. The Ultimate Quest was cool in practice, or in concept, because it was doing difficult content and getting a really strong weapon, but the rates were terrible. I remember doing like an all-night session, I didn't get one. And that was the only content they had for months. That was the only thing there was to do. There was Ultimate Quest and Emergency Quests. And that was it. And because the game updated so slow, there was nothing else. I know that New Genesis had pretty good player count on the first day, but of course, new online game, the servers didn't work. Well, I don't really think that has a bearing on and why it's kind of in the way it is right now. It's a number of factors. The fact that they think adding a Minecraft mode and like a bunch of pieces of clothing every few months is enough to keep people interested in 2025. That's just being misguided. And it's kind of strange because we complained about that a lot in the original game's lifespan, and they're still doing it. And now the competition, like, I mean, I'd say their closest competition is Genshin and Wuthering Waves, which are open world action RPGs. They're updating every 40 days, and not with like, here's a new shirt, or here's Minecraft mode. Like, it's actual substantial content. It's a shame. I hope that if they do try again, they'll learn from their mistakes. They'll definitely have to ramp up production quite a bit. I can tell you that. And the way that they run that game right now is not gonna fly. I should probably do like a video essay on PSO2, but I just don't have the motivation. I don't know how well it would do, but maybe people would like to hear the input from somebody who played it since day one. I played that game in open beta. I'm a real OG on that game. Alright, well, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I don't have anything else interesting to do. I'll figure out what my next game is going to be, probably later today, so hop by the stream for that. I'll see you guys later.